Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again. And that must mean that I am Professor Barbara E.G. Black, and this is the Groundhog Day Project.
It's like we're stuck. You know, like a needle on a scratch record.
It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
It's a thing where the same day keeps happening?
I wake up every day right here, right in Punxsutawney, and it's always February 2nd.
Time.
I promise to explain everything later, but I need you to trust me.
Slow down! What are you, in a damn time loop or something?
Part 2, Groundhog Day Project Blog Entry Day 30, dated 31st August 2013. There's a lot of things really wrong with. We left off with when Phil was being chased by a police car in a news van out to the quarry, he drives through a stone railroad underpass that is clearly too small for the news van to fit through. In subsequent shots, the news van still appears right behind the police car as if nothing has happened. Never mind that I ended with this one and said they could have caught up, of course. I did find more information. There's an old photo from 1903 of this very tunnel. It doesn't have a height listed there, but it's interesting that it's a photo of a guy in a car driving. A boy is seated in a 1902 Baker electric automobile on the east side of the railroad tunnel on South Street and Lake Street. It must be 1902 or later, since the special December 12, 1901 edition of the Woodstock Sentinel notes that Dr. Windmuller has the first and only automobile in Woodstock. This is not the same automobile. By 1905, Woodstock had 27 automobiles in the town, the owners of most being members of the Woodstock Automobile Club. It goes on. The South Street Tunnel is a helicoidal or spiral stone arch. One part was completed in 1867 and the other, over the other train track, was finished in 1897. Yeah, so train tracks are going over the road. So then I looked up, knowing the specific location, since I was having trouble getting it on the map, even though I knew roughly where it was, that it is 9 feet 8 inches. Now this is cutting it close. Because the news van in the movie is a Dodge Ram van, 1991. A 250 is fairly tall, 79.7 inches. That's just for the van. That would put it at 6 feet 6 inches. Plus the stuff on top, you're adding another 3.5 feet at the highest, which would put it pretty close to the 9'8". This whole episode is just going to be about the van, the tunnel. I like it, because this is the process, if you want to debunk this kind of stuff. So, we go into the movie, we see Larry on the street. We don't see... Actually, a better one would be probably Rita standing on the ground next to it when Phil steals the truck. But since we're already here, Larry is maybe an inch or two shorter. So what is Chris Elliott's height? It says he's 6 foot. So I don't think that's 6 inches taller than him. 6 feet would be 72 inches. So this is not, it's got to be no, it can't be the 250. It's not 6'6". It's not 6 inches taller than him. Well, he does have boots on. Those could add an inch or two to his height. His beanie makes it a little iffy. The angle of this shot. The van is closer than he is. This could be the 350. So yeah, we're pushing the limit on the arch, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. As I said, the arch itself is 9'8". So even if the antenna and other stuff adds an extra... Wait a sec, the little lump is part of the van, isn't it? Which means that's probably included in the height. Not the metal frame that the antenna is attached to, that's added. But there's I don't know what that's for, like a roof vent thing. Looks like it's part of the van underneath. I need to see the van itself, not the one from Groundhog Day. Yeah, that part on top where it sticks up is apparently sometimes part of it. So it could be part of the height. This one already has this frame on top, which means you could buy it that way, I guess. The production didn't add that. So if it's 6'6" up to the top of that metal, that means we're only adding about 2.5 feet at most. From the 6'6" means we're still only at 8.5, which means we are clearing the arch by over a foot. Jumping in from editing really quick because I just wanted to point out a couple things. It is specifically a Dodge Ram B250, manufactured probably about 90-91. Now, never mind everything I just said. Depending on calculations, this tunnel, officially, yes, is 9'8". The actual clearance of the van that we see, measuring from a specific shot in minute 62, which is Rita standing next to the van before the car chase, because we can see the bottom of the van, top of the van, and Rita. We know how tall Annie McDowell is, 5'8". Doing some proportions based on the van's official height is 79.9 inches, its official wheelbase 127.6 inches, official length 180.7 inches. Keep in mind, the news van has a width of, it's like 72 inches. I didn't need the width, so I didn't write it down. But the top of it, the antenna, is much narrower. So even if the official height is 9'8", that might not be to the top of the arch. That might be to the top of like the safe driving height. I'm not sure. So I went and did some proportions from the van and figured out that the antenna actually does rise above 9'8". It rises to roughly 12'6". That is based on how the antenna is sticking out of the van right before the car chase. And also right after the car chase when they are at the quarry. It is still up. I'm not sure if they had a working antenna, working news van, but that antenna never moves in the movie. It's basically at the same height. Just to be sure, that's why I looked after. Wanted to make sure that it wasn't possibly lowered during the chase. And I don't know if you even can lower it and raise it while you're driving. So, seeing then that everything I had just said in the recording from last week or whenever I recorded this, that it might not fit, I went to this 1903 image and measured there. Looking at the 1902 Baker Electric automobile, the only measurement I could get on it was a wheelbase of 58 inches. But I found a photo of the exact same car taken from the side so that you can approximate height. So using proportions again of pixels in the image, I figured out that the height of the car, or the height of where the man's head would be in the image, would be about 82 inches off the ground. Using that height, the top of the arch clearance would be 135 inches, which is 11'3". That's still under 12'6". But again, this photo is taken from an angle. The car is already out from under the tunnel, and the van, I'm approximating everything. Off by a foot is bad, though. I still don't like that people say it wouldn't have fit when, in the movie, we cannot see the ground under the tunnel. There's a rise in the ground, and the way the camera is angled, we can't see the bottom of the truck when it comes out of the tunnel. We can see the clearance of the truck. Ish. But that's hard to measure, because we don't see the whole truck in that image. I can't do the height of the I could. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it.
Damn it, Janet, I love you. Damn it, Janet.
Oh, Brad, I'm mad.
Damn it, Janet.
I love you.
Coming in from editing one more time because I lost the second insert clip, so I'm going to keep it really simple. The height of the truck is 70 inches. I had to measure the height of the bridge by approximating based on the truck. I used two different frames because you never actually see the truck from bottom to top in the shot where it's going through the tunnel. So I approximated based on the height. Known dimensions of 70 inches to the height, 46.5 inches up to the hood, meaning it's 23.5 from about the windshield wipers to the roof. Proportions, figuring out the clearance, based on two different images, is anywhere from 51.5 to 58.5 inches. That puts the internal height at the top of the arch at 10 feet 1.5 inches to 12 feet 8.5 inches. Now going back to the van dimensions, it is approximately 80 inches tall, and using proportions of that, in the frame I had, it was 125 pixels for that, 73 for the antenna. Puts the antenna at 47 inches-ish, total height at 127 inches, which is 10 feet, 7 inches. Which, yes, at the smallest dimension I found for the bridge, doesn't fit. At the official dimensions of the bridge, doesn't fit. But at the biggest dimensions, visible in the film, what we can see of reality of the bridge, fits. Outside of going back to Woodstock again, or finding someone in Woodstock to measure it for us. It's the best I can do. But ultimately, none of all that math matters, because we don't see the van go through the tunnel. So it's not a mistake. That's all for one of these. These people should stop being wrong. It's like, if you didn't see it have trouble going through the tunnel, you shouldn't assume it has trouble going through the tunnel. It's not how movies work. During the police chase on the railroad tracks, the police car is following closely behind. When the car driven by Phil swerves to miss the train, the police car behind them would be destroyed by the train, but seems to have vanished. No. It just means the police car got off somewhere else. The timing is weird, if I remember right. Yeah, they're on the train tracks. We're looking at minute 34. Police car is more than a car's length behind them. Once we see the train, we are not seeing the police car because we're only seeing the interior shots, which are filmed on a set. And so there's not actually a police car behind them. The distance to that car is irrelevant because we don't see it. And yeah, this is just wrong. In the blog I said, well, since there's no crash explosion just out of frame, I assume the police car swerved off the tracks into the gravel. See earlier shots of the car, there's plenty of space. Phil just happens to have turned off onto a street. Yeah. When the police are chasing Phil in the Cadillac convertible, he wrecks into a row of cars, the first one being a 1983 AMC Eagle wagon. In the next scene, the Cadillac is crashed against a small Chevy, and the Eagle is on the other side of the Chevy. Somebody clearly wanted to show off his ability to identify cars. I smile at that because I open the Internet Movie Car Database to double-check these kinds of things. As for the possible mistake, you be the judge. The car looks the same to me. And I had two screenshots, which is the wide shot of him hitting one car. Let's see if the Internet Movie Car Database has this car. Doesn't look like it has this scene. Which makes sense. It's a parking lot full of cars. It'd be hard to identify in the shots. But in the wide shot and the closer shot, it looks like, given the position of the fake snow, okay, he's hitting that car. He hits it right at the back of the driver's door. It definitely is a different setup, because the wide shot where he hit it, the front driver's side corner of the car has hit about the back edge of the driver's side door of the car that's parked there. And on the close-up shot, he is parked more at the front of that door. So it is a different shot, but it looks like it's the same car, just positioned differently. So, this just seems wrong. Early in the film, Phil breaks a pencil in half and we see that it's back on top of the clock radio intact in the morning. Later in the film, the pencil is not on top of the clock radio. If everything were resetting the same way every day, then the pencil would always be there. Nitpick. That pencil is never on top of the clock radio. Even after Phil breaks it, he places it on the table in front of the radio. Gotta nitpick myself while editing because he puts half of it in front of the radio and half of it on top of the radio. And the next morning, he has to find the intact pencil down below the tabletop. Because the phone, and presumably a paper pad with the bed and breakfast, a little insignia and address and everything, so you can send memos and whatever they do that for, with a pencil, is down on the shelf at the bottom of the table. Not up on top. On top we have the doily, the flowers, the chocolates, the clock, and the lamp. Everything else is below. And we see that everything else is below. During the final party scene, the engaged couple approaches Phil and he introduces them as the newly married Debbie and Fred Kleiser.
Rita, this is Debbie and Fred Kleiser.
Hi!
However, earlier in the movie, in the diner, the indecisive bride-to-be is already introduced as Debbie Kleiser, prior to the wedding having occurred presumably prior to her having taken her husband's last name.
What are you doing?
This is Debbie Kleiser and her fiance Fred.
Do I know you?
While this is weird, I've already covered a few possible explanations for this one back in my gender entry. Short version, Debbie and Fred could be related, could just happen to have the last name, or Fred took her name because he's progressive like that, or his maiden name was Zod and Kleiser just seemed more normal. When Rita identifies Phil after he jumped from the tower, we see that Phil's eyes are closed. In the next shot, as the blanket is moved to cover Phil, his eyes are open. Yep. Actually, I'm not sure they're completely closed on the side angle of his dead body. Could be a slight squint, but they're definitely not as wide open as the next shot. Also, given the lighting, he looks a lot more pale and dead in the shot from above. When Phil wakes up with Rita at 6 a.m. on February 3rd, his clock flips to 6:01 and then time stands still as several minutes pass. Before I even get to the blog, nitpick. I gotta have a nitpick with time stands still. You're saying that the clock doesn't have the right amount of time doesn't mean it's standing still. First, I must complain. Several minutes do not pass. We needn't exaggerate just to prove ourselves great. However, from the click from 5:59 to 6 to the 6:01 getting panned out of the shot, it is longer than that 1 minute 59 seconds that would make it possible. It's about 2 minutes 27 seconds, in fact. So yes, it's off by about half a minute. At the beginning of the movie, while the white van is going from Pittsburgh to Punxsutawney, the WPBH signs stuck on the van's sides move from near the back of the van to near the front. See the 4 semicircular holes above each sign. This is correct. I did talk about this in the minutes in this recent version of this show. The logo on the driver's side of the van is at the midway position as the van drives in Pittsburgh, then is at the forward position when they reach the Pennsylvania Hotel. The logo on the right moves a couple times, notably in the shot where they pass the big Punxsutawney sign. This is all true, but it's not necessarily a mistake because we are seeing a montage of parts of their drive. They could have stopped for gas, could have stopped for coffee, and someone could have moved the sign. They're just a magnetic sign that's attached to the van. On February 3rd, when Phil and Rita are leaving the place Phil has been staying, the shots of the gate in the fence show the gate closed in the shots from near the building, but show the gate open in the shots from the street. This one is tricky. Consider this shot of the bed and breakfast on the morning of February 2nd, and I show it. The gate also looks open there, but I think it's a trick of the angle because the gate is actually slightly forward from the arch. Here it is on the 3rd. I think the gate is closed and the position makes it look open, but it is certainly not definitively open. Additionally, in the director's commentary, Ramis mentions how on the February 3rd scene, the gate was frozen. It wouldn't move.
We couldn't open the gate because there was too much snow and ice, so that's why he had to lift her over the gate.
I believe it was partially open, but they couldn't get it to move, and they just filmed it that way because he didn't care. But now I want to check. Okay. This is minute 98. Yes, the gate is definitely closed on the shot from up by Cherry Street looking down the street, or up the street. They talk, Rita's a robot, and the other one, that is iffy. Now the gate is definitely open. Yeah, they're correct. It is a weird visual illusion where I think it looks like it's more open than it is, but it was open the previous day as well, so this is where the gate was. The problem is the shot from the house. Someone got the gate to find the clothes, I guess. The next category is crew or equipment visible. As Larry films the flaming wreckage of Phil's truck in the quarry, the lights used to create the glow of fire can be seen reflected in the lens of Larry's camera. Red light. This is the second one. Red lights used to simulate the glow of the flames of the burning pickup truck after it explodes after being driven over the quarry cliff can be seen in the reflection on the lens filters on Larry's camera. 2 versions of the same one. I would say the second one is wrong because they call the lights red. They're clearly orange. A, these are both the same goof, so I will have to take one off the IMDb page for sure. B, yes, those lights are visible. The next category is errors in geography. How these aren't just factual errors, I don't know, because that's also a category. Sunrise in early February in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania is not until around 7:25 a.m., so at 6 a.m. it would still be fully dark. In fact, the apparent sunrise in Pittsburgh that day, according to NOAA, was 7:28. Is that correct? Double checking because I would have had probably the wrong day in mind at the time of writing this. And sure enough, 1991, when the film is set, sunrise was at 7:26 a.m., not 7:28. And that is in Punxsutawney, right? Not Philadelphia? Yeah. According to timeanddate.com, the sunrise in Philadelphia was 7:08. Wait, in Philadelphia, the sunrise was 7:08. Punxsutawney would be somewhere in between. Oh, Pittsburgh was 7:28. Philadelphia 7:08. The prognostication would be roughly just after dawn, because that's the point. Punxsutawney would be somewhere in between, closer to Pittsburgh, I believe. But all of that is long after the bright 6 a.m. we see in the film. So yes, this is true. That the prognostication is at 7:20 is roughly accurate. Should be a few minutes later, but it's close enough. The problem is the 6 a.m. shouldn't be this bright. That is just true. But also, it's a movie. Movies don't generally film at sunrise or sunset unless they absolutely have to, because the light changes too much. I forgive this one. You really want to have him come out in the dark. And there are still more from this entry, so we will come to a part 3 next week.
Knew you were gonna say that.
This has been a production of Lemming Drops Studio. You can find links to more at lemmingdrops.com or join the Facebook group Lemming Drops Studio Tour. Also, you can support all my shows at patreon.com/lemmingdrops.
What is wrong in the end which never comes? Or which comes again and again, lapping, like waves.
Since the Big Bang set everything in motion, everything that happens in this universe has to be the way it is. Particles unfolding the way they're destined to.
How do you sleep at night? You've never seen Groundhog Day?
Yeah, you know Groundhog Day is not a documentary.
Remember when Groundhog Day was just a movie?